I um I uh I actually had fun. That can't be right. Welcome to today's video where I'm going to recommend that you give Project Smash a shot, although you probably already have if you have any interest in the current Roblox Egg Hunt event. I don't, which is why I haven't bothered to play it up until now, despite a ton of people recommending this game to me. But the weird thing about Project Smash is that, well, by all rights, I shouldn't like it. I mean, for the most part, I just shouldn't be enjoying this game. And despite that, like I said right at the start, I had fun. I mean, this game is literally, and I mean quite literally, one step away from being the strongest boring grounds. It is right there. The only difference between this and strongest boring grounds is that in Strongest Boring Grounds, you get everything right off the bat, and in this, it gives you, I think, 3 classes, and then the rest of them you need to play to unlock. And the funny part is that while I was playing, I didn't even unlock any of the other classes, and I can still say that I had a good time. So, what gives? Why? That makes no sense. The game in its current state has no structure. You literally don't even spawn when you spawn in. It puts you in a menu, and you do not spawn into the game unless you press a button. So if anything, some parts of it are lesser than the strongest battlegrounds. And honestly, when it really comes down to it, I can't explain it. This is just gonna be one of those biased sort of first impression videos where I literally have no clue. I'm gonna try to tell you why I had fun. And the thing is, when it comes to Roblox, I don't really have fun on this platform anymore. This is gonna start getting pretty depressing and jaded, so I'll try to keep it short. But I don't think there's a game I can think of that I enjoy on Roblox where I go and I play it, and afterwards I'm like, that was fun, I enjoyed that. Pretty much everything on here I play exclusively in order to get footage or to make a video, and that's it. It's not fun, it's just part of the daily routine at this point. I mean, YBA I used to have fun with, and that game is in the toilet. TCA I used to have fun with, and that game seemingly every single update almost makes the game worse with some nonsensical balance changes that I have just sort of lost the patience to argue with people about. Deep Woken, I suppose, is kind of fun, but it's also got that level of Tarkov where it's also more punishing a lot of the time than it is fun. And so, all in all, I'm sitting here questioning, like, all of the things that I normally think about games when playing this, because for all intents and purposes, this should not be fun, and it is. Which, like, it's not gonna have a whole lot of staying power. I don't know if I'll even ever log in to play the game again, but I don't think any of that really matters in the grand scheme of things, because that just level of I had fun is what sort of makes the difference here. Anyways, we're like almost 4 minutes into the video, I think, by this point, and I haven't even talked about the game. You've been seeing it, but what is Project Smash? As I alluded to earlier, it's basically you log in, you spawn in, you get some abilities, and you fight people. That is the whole game. But I think what makes the game enjoyable is the mechanics of the game rather than the actual game itself. The problem that I had with Strongest Boring Grounds was the fact that while playing it, it felt like I was, number one, fighting against a bunch of people who just used Google to lab out a bunch of combos that did way too much damage and were just incredibly unfun to fight against, but also that the mechanics of the game itself were unintuitive and unfun to interact with. The fact that the movement-related dash was tied to the side dash and it moved you like 800 miles, it meant that anytime that you wanted to close the gap with someone, you had to turn your character sideways and do this weird, awkward circle around them in order to catch up to them. And that just feels like shit. I know, I saw the comments on the Strongest Boring Grounds video, and I don't care if it's a skill issue. I don't care if it raises the skill ceiling. It isn't fun to interact with the game that way. Things like the backdash in Strongest Boring Grounds are just borderline bad options. If you use it, you're liable to just get punished and murdered. Okay, well then why is it even there? I don't know. And the same sort of goes for the front dash, which has an attack to it. The point is, Strongest Boring Grounds' controls and overall gameplay feel are just sorta ass. They're not fun to interact with. And that is basically the complete opposite here, despite the overall layout of the game being basically identical. In Project Smash, you've got your default M1 attacks that you can do 4 or 5 of them, and the last one knocks people back. You've got 4 skills that you can use that all do different varieties of things, whether it be counters, stuns, knockbacks, etc. You can jump, in which case you have, I believe, 3 jumps that you're allowed to use mid-air, which is super handy. While you're in the air, if you attack downwards, you'll do a sort of ground slam and accelerate to the ground super quickly. And if you point up and do an attack, you'll do an uppercut, which rises you into the air, as well as knocks back opponents upwards if they're near you. Then, of course, you're able to block and dash, and, well, that's really about it. It's an incredibly simplistic control design, but where the fun factor really starts to kick in is their decision to use, well, what the title implies, the Smash Brothers logic of health. You technically have unlimited health in this game. Instead of having HP, your health is represented by a percentage. The higher your percentage is, the farther that you'll fly backwards when hit by a knockback move. The way you kill people, since everyone has unlimited health, is to knock them off the map. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. And, I mean, it is. Of course, you're also able to use a whole bunch of different tools to get back onto the map after you're kicked off of it. Whether it be movement tools that your ability you're currently using has, the uppercut move that I was talking about earlier, as well as being able to use your extra jumps and mid-air dash, and an unlimited wall jump, where if you manage to get to this side of the stage, you're able to climb back up. So that's really the gist of the game. There's no extra game modes. You get XP as well as money when you kill people, which you can use to buy extra classes, and that's really about it. I feel like I've been saying that a lot, but no, for real this time. There's nothing else. But despite there being nothing else, I had a great time, and I think a lot of that comes down to a few things. Number one is that I haven't really played a game like this. I've never played a 3D Smash-like platform fighter, and so being able to try it out in this context had me doing some things that are a hell of a lot more satisfying in this game than they otherwise would be in a 2D platform fighter. For example, spiking opponents in 3D is fucking awesome. It takes a hell of a lot more skill to line something like this up because you have to take into consideration 3 dimensions. And because it seems like most, if not all, attacks that are melee focused, when they hit you, directly send you in the direction that you were hit when the attack was fired, it gives basically every ability a spike, which is awesome. There was few things more satisfying than hitting someone off at like 30 and then them thinking they were just fine and they'd get right back and then bam, right onto the stage. You're done. Or hopefully I can find the clip, but there was this one guy who was like, yeah, I'll just hide on the wall. No, you won't. You're done. On top of that, because of the whole you don't have HP, you have percentage thing, getting hit by attacks and getting comboed doesn't feel nearly as bad, and it also doesn't make you feel like you're counted out of the game really at any point. Sure, you can have big comebacks in these games where you have a static amount of health, but in this game, I feel like I'm just as capable as fighting against someone when I'm at 178% as I would be at 0%. And that just makes the overall gameplay feel more fun. On top of the fact that because, as far as I know, unless there's a class that does it, you can't heal yourself, even someone who's really good or like a complete juggernaut at the game is not going to be invincible because that damage is going to rack up over time and eventually they're going to fly off at some absurd speed that surely they can't come back from. That was another thing that was incredibly satisfying. Hitting people off the edge and watching them desperately use all of their resources to come back and then failing and not making it. I couldn't help myself. There were so many times where I just stood on the edge of the map and I watched people plummet to their death after they used all their resources. In terms of overall class balance, I can't talk about this too much because, like I said, I only really used the first 3 starter classes and I only really played for a little over an hour, so that's not a great way to judge. And generally speaking, if the balance is really, really bad, you can sort of tell right off the bat, but I couldn't tell, so that makes me have a little bit of hope. When all is said and done, I don't know how old Project Smash is. The game page says that it was created in 2023, but that doesn't mean a whole lot because that might just mean that the game was actively being developed and development started in 2023. Obviously, it being showcased in the Egg Hunt is probably big for the developers, but at the end of the day, I hope that the game itself can get a little bit more substance to make it have a little bit more staying power. I think even just a simple addition of some game modes that play out over and over again while you're in the default area, or maybe game modes that you go to specifically, could really help the game, as the whole quote-unquote battleground system of just having a place where you respawn over and over and over again and there's no goal and nothing to really work towards is a little bit lame at the end of the day. It also feels a bit lazy, and I don't want to say that and sound mean, but I don't really know how else to put it. Why go through all this effort to put together all these different abilities and such, and then totally gimp out on the actual game itself part of the game? I'm not sure. On one final note while I was playing the game, one thing that I always enjoy while playing these sorts of games where you endlessly respawn is when you get on someone's nerves and you've clearly ticked them off and created a rivalry. I had this one guy who just kept coming back and they kept coming back. Even when I would go to fight other people, they would continuously re-show up to try to fight me for at least 20 minutes. It was really fun. So shoutouts to this guy. If he sees this video, I hope he does. It was fun. I enjoyed that. Even if your rivalry with me caused me to end up just fighting you for far longer than I probably wanted to. I lied. There was one other thing that I wanted to touch on, which is the anti-gank in this game, which I actually think works very well, especially considering the context that it's in. I don't necessarily know if it would work as well in a game mode setting, but basically it seems like the way the anti-gank works is if you're hitting someone or getting hit, you're invincible to other parties, which is really nice because it means that the second you start your combo, which generally speaking this game goes on for not a very long time, so it would be really annoying if people just showed up and hit you out of it. Well, they can't, and that's just a nice feature to have. Anyways, that's it for real this time. I'm wrapping up today's video because I've rambled on long enough and really haven't said a whole lot of substance. So, you know, sometimes I gotta wonder why there's less people watching my videos, and then I put out stuff like this. Whoops. Anyways, if you did enjoy the ramble and you've either played Project Smash or haven't and now you're going to, you can go ahead and leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't and you hate this game with a passion because I trashed on Strongest Boring Grounds again, I don't know, don't do those things. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.